Welcome everyone to India number 1, Koneru Humpy taking her chair against Divya Deshmukh. Humpy, of course, an absolute legend in the world of chess, in Indian chess, and she's playing here at the FIDE Women's Grand Prix in Pune. She puts on the jacket on her chair, gets ready for the battle. She's playing with the white pieces against Divya. Divya has been in tremendous form in this event. She has scored 2 wins out of 2 rounds. In the first round, she beat Nurgul Salimova and then went on to beat R. Vaishali. And now she is up against Humpy. She's 2 out of 2 and Humpy is on 1 out of 2. 2 draws in this tournament. The Women's Grand Prix is a very interesting event that is taking place in Pune at the Amanora Fern, and 4 of India's top women players are playing there. There you see Divya enters, a handshake. I would call this a battle of generations because you can see that Divya, born in 2005, young talent, trying to make it big in the world of chess, had entered nearly the top 15 of the world rankings. Humpy, on the other hand, has played for the highest title. Back in 2011, she played the World Championship match against Ho Yifan. She's born in 1986, and it's amazing the willpower and the fire that she has. She recently even won the Women's World Rapid Championship in New York, and that just goes to show that she still has a lot of chess left in her. But today we will see who will come out on top, and it's going to be very, very exciting as the players get ready for the round to begin. It's 90 minutes for 40 moves plus 30 minutes with an increment of 30 seconds from move number 1. And there you see Divya adjusting her pieces. The players are ready to rock and roll here. And a handshake. Off we go. What is Humpy's first move going to be here? She opens the game with c4, the English opening. If we talk about styles of play, one can say that Humpy is more positional in nature, while Divya is more aggressive and tactical in nature. So pawn to c4, knight f6, and Humpy brings out her knight to f3. What is Divya going to play next here? She thinks for a bit. She could play the symmetrical English with c5. She goes c5. Interesting. And now Humpy can push her pawn to d4. That's one possible move. You can bring your knight out. You can play your pawn to g3, bishop g2. Many different possibilities. Also e3, d4 is possible. She goes knight to c3, keeping all the flexibility in the position. And Divya plays her knight out to c6. It's the 4 knights on the board that we have. And now Humpy decides to play pawn to g3. She's going to put her bishop here, quickly castle it out. It's typical way to play the English. And Divya also plays g6. So currently we have symmetry on the board. And the bishop comes out to g2. And with bishop g7, castle seems likely. So, d5. Divya decides to change the flow of the game. She pushes her pawn to d5, and that's the thing about Divya. She likes to play more direct chess. Knight takes to d5. Now, in such positions, often you will see that if black gets the pawn to e5, bishop g7, castle, it's like a Maroczy bind with the black pieces. And it puts a lot of bind on white's position. But look at that move by Humpy. She goes h4. She's still in her prep. She wants to go h5 with the rook still being on h1. Divya decides to play bishop to g7. And I think it's time to even push further on h5. Humpy thinks for only a minute, pushes forward h5. Now she has pressure on the king side. She could take the pawn. She could also push the pawn here to h6, which would be slightly uncomfortable. Bishop goes to f5. Very interesting move here by Divya, and I think a very good move. She thought for almost 12 minutes. She's looking in this direction. And now knight comes out to g5. So you can see how the knight is putting pressure on the f7 pawn. There's also pressure on the d5 square. And knight b4 played. Wow, this is getting very direct. You want to go knight c2 check immediately. And I think the best move for Humpy here is to simply block the bishop's path with d3. Divya gets up and Humpy is thinking. She goes pawn to d3, the best move here. Now definitely you want to think about the move h6 here by white. So black's move h6 makes a lot of sense, because with h6 you can push the bishop away, push the knight away. And both players sort of taking their time for the moves, getting up from the chair. Lot of pressure. Knight d4. Whoa, what a move here by Divya. She moves in. She's threatening now a check on c2. Humpy can actually push h6. It's not a bad idea to push the pawn forward, but she decides to play it safe. She castles it out here so that there is no knight c2 check that comes in. And Divya plays the best move. She pushes the knight away from g5. It's an insanely complicated position here with Divya. And now Humpy coming knight e4. She's attacking the c5 pawn. There's also pressure down to the b7 pawn here. So rook comes to c8. The rook defends the pawn on c5. And I believe that a3 can be played here. Well, she takes on g6. And bishop takes on g6. The bishop moves back. Now pawn to a3. So a very important move now for black is knight c2. Although the knight is poorly placed here, let's say after rook b1 there is bishop h5, putting real pressure on the e2 point. But instead Divya goes back to a6, and this small move is good enough for Humpy now to take over the position, because she can now push the other knight away with e3. And that would be a very good move. Just push the knight away with e3. And she has 40 minutes. She took 12 minutes for this decision, but it's the best move, attacking the knight. And you can see Divya has 42 minutes on the clock. Divya comes back to the board. And she goes back knight to c6. Well, let's take stock of the situation. How should white continue here? It would be amazing to have the knight on the f4 square here. And Humpy finds a very tactical way of getting it. Knight d5, what a move. If you take queen takes, I have knight f6 check, winning your queen with a discovered attack. So Divya goes short castle, but now this knight on d5 can move to f4. It's a great square for the knight. And Humpy plays it, knight to f4. The bishop is hanging. You want to preserve it, but then my knight jumps to the h5 square attacking here. It gets very hard to hold on to everything. It's amazing how white's position has become so powerful. King h7 played, and look at this. The knight on a6 is not so great. There's pressure on the c5 point. Too many problems. What is Humpy going to play next now? King h7 by Divya. She has 22 minutes on the clock. Bishop d2 played. A very nice move. Developing, finishing development, bringing the rook to c1 to put more pressure here. Also preparing b4 at some point. She plays pawn to e5. A very direct move, asking Humpy to take a decision with her knight. Of course, Humpy is going to just chop off this bishop. That's what she wants to do here. She's thinking, and she takes it. Knight takes g6, and Divya must take back with the pawn. Yes, f takes g6 on the board. And now this d3 pawn is under pressure. So you need to save it. Queen c2 seems like a move. Queen b3 another move. She plays queen to b1. And with this move, she is protecting d3, but also preparing this very interesting move b4. b4, b5 is on the cards. And this is a positional catastrophe for Divya, because you can see the knight on e4 cannot be moved. There are too many problems that she's facing. And that too against a player like Humpy, it's going to be very tough. Although Divya is known for her tenacity. You know, that's something that she is really amazing as a player. She will try to fight till the bitter end here. Queen b6 played. Just activating the queen here. And I guess it's time to push the b pawn forward with b4. Yes, that's what Humpy does. She pushes her b pawn forward. b4 is on the board now. And Divya takes. Rook takes rook. And now rook takes rook by black. Takes back with the pawn. So white has improved the position even further, because now the rook is activated here. There are possibilities of pushing b5. She goes knight to d5. There is some real pressure on the b4 point. Let's see how Humpy takes care of it. She goes knight to g5, at g5. Look at the times on the clock. Divya has 5 minutes 30 seconds. Humpy has 11 minutes 30 seconds. And they are on move number 26. Bishop d5 played. And now the idea is just king g2 and check on the h file. The king doesn't have the g8 square. Knight goes back to c7. Attacking the bishop. You can drop the bishop back already. She goes queen c2. A very interesting move, by the way, was queen f1. Threatening check and winning the rook on c8. But anyway, queen c2. Rook comes to d8, attacking the bishop now. You couldn't have taken the bishop as it was pinned here. The rook was hanging. Bishop comes back to e4, pinning the pawn. The bishop is very well positioned. And knight to d5 played here by Divya. She goes queen c4. And the knight comes back to f6. And now king g2, another great move here by Humpy. Because if knight takes e4, you have rook h1, bishop h6 and queen f7 with a mate coming in. So you don't have time to pick up the bishop. She goes rook d7 here. And now, what's the next move that Humpy has on her mind? She goes queen to c8 with 2 minutes 50 seconds left for both players. Time is going to play a crucial role here. Queen d8 offering a trade of queens. But, I mean, isn't the a7 pawn hanging here? Takes, rook takes, and now if you take on a7, knight e4, pawn takes, and d2 is hanging. So you have to take on b7. That's very important. Takes it. Bishop takes on b7, and I guess Divya, in order to maintain material equality, must take on d3. She takes it. Bishop e1. The amazing thing about this position is that white's advantage has grown, but Divya has managed to keep the material equality. Now a7 is hanging, very difficult to protect this. She comes back with rook d7, and you mustn't play rook a7 because this pin is super irritating. So instead, Humpy finds the best move, bishop c6, attacking the rook. This is just the class of Humpy, that, you know, no matter how much resistance Divya is putting up, she is finding the best moves here. Rook a5. Now another nice move, putting pressure here on the e5 point. Divya goes rook to c7. We are on move number 36. 1 minute 29 seconds for Divya as she gets into her famous pose of, you know, sitting on the chair. She used to do this as a little kid a lot to reach the board, and now, even though she is one of the best in the world, often she gets into that pose in order to think freely. Bishop c3, but today it's a very tough moment for her. Bishop d6, putting pressure here. Divya defends it with her bishop, and now Humpy finds another impeccable move. You can't take here. Your knight is hanging on f6. So f4, knight g4, attacking the e3 pawn. This is move number 39 that we have. So last move before time control is reached. Humpy has 1 minute and a few seconds left, and she goes king f3. Divya plays knight h2. Completed 40 moves here. Comes back king g2, and I guess Divya asks Humpy if can I ask the arbiter if 40 moves are done, and Humpy is like, sure, you can ask the arbiter in your time. And she asks, are 40 moves done? And it seems like Divya hasn't written her score sheet well. The arbiters are here, and often in these clocks the issue is that the time goes down to 0 and then the 30 minutes get added. And for now, score sheet has, I think Divya's score sheet has one move less. Somehow she made a mistake in writing the moves. That's what we got to know, that she wrote one move on the same line. So right now it is maybe 39 moves for her, and Humpy has already completed 40 moves. So the arbiters are asking Divya to complete the score sheet. They give her Humpy's score sheet to just check, and Divya has to perhaps go through the entire score sheet to find where she made the error. And I think that has been found. So maybe it's time to get back to the game. And there you see Divya now back to focus mode. She made a repetition there so that they could reach move 40. And she comes back with her knight, attacking the pawn on e3. And Humpy comes back I guess the only logical move is king f3 because you have to protect the e3 pawn. So king f3, knight jumps to h2, and now king e4. Very, very useful move. So king e4, great move there by Humpy. Now the king is very well positioned. Threats of taking on e5, king d5, attacking the bishop here. E takes f4. And king d5. Wow. Sharp chess here. The bishop is hanging, so Divya defends it with bishop f8. You will see that the amount of material on the board is reducing drastically after ef4. I'm sure Divya is going to exchange another pair of pawns. gf. And then gf taken here. So if you see, both sides have just 2 pawns left, but the quality of the pieces and the threat of bishop d4 and the power of this b pawn is immense. So she attacks here, and now the best move is bishop d4. I don't think Humpy needs to save this f4 pawn with bishop e5, which is also possible to play, but bishop d4 is just very strong. So plays it, bishop d4. And now she plays bishop to h6, attacking the f4 pawn. I guess you can just simply take this. Rook a7 looks like a great move. Seems to be winning. Just think about this. But Hump even finds a better move. King e6, attacking the rook. The rook doesn't have too many squares. You know, king g7 is impossible. The bishop looks here. King g8 might have to be played. Yeah, she goes. And now, if you take rook takes, for example, takes, bishop f4, then it seems like the b pawn is not enough because you can sack your bishop for that. So that's the reason bishop a7 is taken by Humpy, which makes sense because she can keep the rook on the board, bishop f4. And by the way, Divya is down to 3 minutes on the clock. Humpy has 6 minutes, bishop c5, another strong move. And now threatening a check whereby you will win the rook. So rook f5 played. And look at this beautiful move. Now threatening check. If king h7, it's a checkmate with the bishop here. So she goes king h7. And bishop to e4, rook h5. And it seems like now a mate is incoming if you go rook a8 with the idea of a mate. Humpy has 4 minutes to figure this out, whether it's a mate or not. And she does find it. Beautiful move. If king h6, there is bishop f6 followed by rook h8 mate. The b pawn along with the mating threats is too much to handle here for Divya. She is trying to find some way to wriggle out of the mess, but there is none to be found here. And look at the knight on h2 is completely out of the game, can't do much. She resigns the game. Humpy wins it. What a great show by Humpy in this game. She completely outplayed Divya. Once she got an advantage, she never let it go. Showed her class as a top player in the world. And now she moves up the rankings, the ladder with 2 points now out of 3. Divya, of course, has had quite a heartbreaking loss here. Quite a tough one, but a lot to learn from this game. and she'll be looking to come back stronger in the remaining rounds. But in the clash of generations between these two Indian players, it was the experience that triumphed over the youth.